Hey everyone, Joe from Gadgetry Tech here, and I have DMS with me. Kind
Hey,
enough to take some time to chat with me about his new headphone project, the Omega.
happy to be here.
Thank you so much for taking some time away. We're in CanJam right now. This is why the set's a little bit different. So I stole him from the show to get to hear this in a quiet environment. And yeah, first impressions, pretty insane, super comfortable.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's been a really, really long process. I was actually kind of worried about that at first because I tried to make this really, really light.
yeah,
It's made out of nylon powder. It's 300 grams, and one of my first thoughts was, oh, they associate premium with really heavy, like big, thick metal stuff and all that. But for me, I just want something light that I can wear all the time.
yeah.
So part of me was like, oh, I wonder if people will think it's too light. But so far, it's been a really positive reception. I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, I think you can make it light, but if it still feels really comfortable and it's not rattling or feeling flimsy, you can
Hmm.
easily skew away from the cheapness feel because it feels solid even though it's light.
Right. Well,
Um,
actually, the whole baffle chassis, all of that is one solid piece of nylon,
yeah, that's
which
so
was a
cool.
was a pain.
Now I noticed the vent design on the outside edge. Did you
Mhm.
experiment with different vent patterns to see how that impacted the tonality of it
Oh
or?
yeah. So all of these vents are necessary, partially because you need a little bit more open air space because of this. So inside here, there's a couple of different things happening. That's why I had to make this out of nylon SLS. There is a resonator, and there is a few other guides in here to try and control the amount of pressure inside this chamber at all times.
That's awesome.
um, which was kind of necessary because this driver you can see it. It's very
Yeah.
open, and there's no damping on the front side of the driver. So
Interesting, yeah.
it's well, here I can actually take a pad off and I'll show you.
Yeah, so and after that I'm curious to talk about the pads because they're definitely unique as well.
So the
Look at that.
baffle is laser cut stainless steel, and you can see straight through the drivers right there.
That's
There's
amazing.
no layers of foam or anything like that on the front of it. And then there's three holes on the side.
Hmm.
This was actually an idea that Skedra had, so thank you, Skedra. Um, he wanted the ability to have either an angled or a straight connector. And I wanted this to be
Interesting.
modular and easy to fix and repair and take apart.
No
So you can
way.
take it off and you can put it on any of the sets of holes and kind of change the angling and all that. Or if something ever does, break, or if you want to modify it, every part of this headphone can be taken apart, reassembled super easily and interchanged.
That's a bombshell right there. I had no idea you can change the orientation.
Oh yeah.
I've liked angled because the microphonics of some cables, that's the easiest way to
Hmm.
combat a lot of that. So, and then, if I'm quickly picking it up, I want to know which one's left and right without having to study the headphone too much. But
Exactly. And the default configuration for these when they ship is angled. But if you wanted to straight down, you could do that too. They're coming with a cable that, at least at the moment right now, Periapt is making the cable,
okay.
Tacony's making the pads, and I'm making the rest of it.
Yeah, their
Um,
suede pads are so good.
oh, I love it. Yeah. Well, I've always really enjoyed the feeling of kind of the suede. It doesn't get
Yeah.
super hot, but it also kind of seals in a little bit better than kind of velour does.
Hmm.
Um, and then memory foam, just
Comfy.
big, thick, comfy. Yeah, it was hard tuning a dynamic with such a large pad, but 2 years.
Yeah.
So we landed where I'm really, really happy, and now I use it every day.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I know because you wear glasses, having a
Yeah.
big memory foam pad, that's always been a thing that I don't think is always discussed
Hmm.
on headphones or even comfort quality. Everyone talks about weight, clamp force, the headband feel,
Right.
the pad material, but some pads are noticeably more compliant for frames.
Hmm. And
So,
this is just forgiving enough in terms of like the acoustic impedance of like this airspace that it just the slight broken seal from my glasses doesn't make the bass like die into
right.
oblivion. I will get a little bit more extension if I don't have my glasses on, but the actual level of the bass remains the same if I have a slightly broken seal, which was
Yeah.
a really big point for me because yeah, I wear glasses all the time. So and actually that was another I guess side effect of that was to do that the back of the driver had to be completely open. So even if
Oh,
I put a small grill over this or something, it would completely change the tuning of how it handles bass.
I
That was a
gotcha.
really, really big challenge. But the nice thing also is that, it's all modular and repairable and replaceable. So if for
Yeah,
some
that's
reason
huge.
someone decided to stick a screwdriver into the driver, which I don't recommend doing, but
Yeah, don't try this at home.
yeah, yeah, I think it'd still be pretty hard to do. That's something that can be, easily remedied. I want people to be able to service this at home or modify it or do whatever they want. And in the long, long run, I would love to also kind of just open source all the actual project files for this so people could modify, repair, or experiment with it themselves.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're big into 3D printing too, so opening that
Mhm.
up might help give people kind of a head start on that process too.
Yeah, actually, a lot of the prototyping was done with FDM and MSLI printers, and because I was trying to design a part that I could injection mold,
Hmm.
but eventually it came down to the point where it had to be done with SLS printing because injection molding, like this part, you can't make it and pull a mold apart in two directions
Yeah.
because you have the internal structures and the overhangs and all that. So it had to be SLS, but it's still a type of printing.
Yeah.
So, and I'm also a fan of the texture that SLS generates.
So on the audio side, now I didn't ask what this sounded like. I had no preconceptions on what to expect. I just kind of plugged it in. This is why we snuck off to the hotel room so I could actually hear it. Hooked it up to a niche piety on my laptop and went through 3 songs. And my first response is it's kind of like an HD6XX, HD650, but with better bass, and it's more comfortable. And the first thing you said,
Oh, was that I love the 650, and
Yeah.
it was kind of so. This, in a way, part of this is my love letter to the 650. I mean, Axel Grell is a good friend. Um, I'm really excited about the project he's working on.
yeah, I heard that.
And this, I mean, I've been using the 650 for basically forever. It was always like my daily, and all I ever wanted was a bit more bass extension, a bit more soundstage, maybe a little bit more treble extension too. And a lot of that is what I landed on here. Similar sound characteristic. It measures very similar from like the maybe 400 hertz to
Yeah.
like 4 kilohertz range,
Yep.
and then you get a bit more on both ends after that. Um, and really, it was just kind of making something to my preferences. So this is if you take, like we've been doing on the headphone show a lot recently, taking the diffuse field curve or calibration for like the 4128 and adding a 10 decibel downward tilt to that, which is
Right.
very similar to the preferred listener response for a speaker in a an optimal room, basically.
Right.
So basically taking the response you would want out of like an optimized speaker in an optimized room for the average listener preference, and then applying a similar curve to a headphone, which also happens to be very similar to things like the HT650 and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's been one of my go-tos as well. So when we review headphones, I'm sure you have like your benchmark. I being an Italian, I talk about the lemon sorbet in between certain meals to cleanse the
Yep.
palate. And the HD6XX or 650 or even the 600 is more of that palate cleanser. You have like a benchmark sound profile. And I think a lot of audiophiles own one
yeah.
of those series because it's this legendary sound profile.
Mhm.
But what I always found lacking for me has always been the comfort because I am sensitive to a stronger clamp. This is light, so you can get away with a lighter clamp
Yeah.
because it can still be stable on your head.
Well, and also I guess the difference there is that it has really big, thick pads,
Yeah.
so it doesn't have to.
Pillows.
Yeah, it doesn't have to clamp in as much.
Yeah.
And I should note, I still absolutely love my HT650.
Yeah.
It's like it is at the top of my wall with the flagships, and I bring it down very frequently.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, the
But-
bang for your buck factor is just out of this world.
it's wild. It's one of the only headphones you can buy and keep for 20 years or more.
Yep.
Like very easily.
All right, so I got to ask you a tough question.
Sure.
You review headphones.
Yes, I do.
You're now making and prototyping your own.
Oh yeah, which
does-
is a big conflict.
Right. So now naturally, I'm sure you either receive comments somewhere or
Mhm.
you're probably expecting to. How does
Yes.
this affect future reviews? What does that do to your approach?
So, I mean, people can always choose, however they feel about it, and it's up to you to decide whether or not you trust me or not. I love a lot of headphones in my collection, and this isn't going to replace those. But what I'm going to do, and my policy on this is going to be that I'm going to, have this covered on other channels. Other people can talk about it. I still love tons of things coming out there in the audio world. So for me, a lot of why I review is because I want to be able to try things and enjoy them. So I plan to just keep doing that. If,
Yeah.
People want a comparison between this and another headphone, they can find it on another channel, but that's a line I'm not going to cross. And that's another reason why I don't really ever have an intention to become like a big manufacturer or anything like that, is because at a few units a month, obviously this isn't going to compete with any of the manufacturers out there, and that's kind of a way I want to keep it. I want to keep this as like just a small fun project, something I can do on my own time that I really enjoy.
Cool. Well, I mean, there's no denying your passion for the industry. I met you a
Thank
couple
you.
years ago when I was a wee small channel, And you know, this the stuff that you said at the time, it's about, you know, the people, the hobby, the gear as a whole, and it was never like about a bias or certain standard or expectation of something. You know, it's the passion for the sound.
Right.
And you said it yourself, you made this for you.
Yeah.
You wanted something that you liked better for you.
And it was exactly
turns
for
out
me.
some people may have a similar interest. So
It just so happens, yeah. And it really, honestly, I live for these shows.
yeah,
Like all year round, I'm just waiting for the next CanJam.
it's so much fun.
There's nothing in the world I enjoy more than actually like coming here and seeing all these familiar faces from around the world and being with all my friends in one place.
Yeah.
Then I go back to life after this and I'm like, well, I'm just going to sit and listen to headphones until the next one comes around.
Yeah. Yep. No,
Give me
it's a
something
good
to
time.
talk about.
Cool. All right. Thanks for tackling that. I know that's going to be a dicey topic in the future for people whenever that happens. So
I'm good on it. I'm an open book.
Yeah.
Literally, if anybody has questions on this, ask me the hard questions. I want to answer them.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the Omega,
Mm-hmm.
when is it coming out? Is it out already? How can people learn more or find this?
So the for sale page is not up yet, but this will be sold on headphones.com. Really, this is kind of me letting the cat out of the bag. I haven't
Yeah.
even made a video on this thing existing yet. So you're probably one of the first people
Hey.
on YouTube who's gotten a video out on this. But I've kind of kept it hush hush. I've made some batches already and distributed them to people in like my Patreon chat and all that.
Yeah.
So they've gotten the first units. And from there, headphones.com, I think we're probably going to launch it on their site within the next couple of months. I don't have an
That's awesome.
exact date, but I will be also carrying these around to shows.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the people in my patron chat, they're going to probably put their impressions out on the internet. I imagine some people from the shows will also. It's going to be a very slow rollout. I don't, have intentions to be a big headphone manufacturer or anything like that. This is just my love letter audio and my passion project, and I'm making very small quantities of them because I wanted to do it for me. Other people
Right.
ended up wanting it after that. And I also, as a reviewer, wanted to be able to experience a lot of the troubles of manufacturing a headphone and understand the difficulties and kind of apply
Yeah.
that to my reviewing process. So this is kind of a culmination of all of that.
That's awesome. And it could be just the beginning, right? So
Maybe. Yeah.
No,
I'm
that's
excited to see
exciting.
where it goes.
Cool. Well, hey, thanks so much. I appreciate you taking the time.
Dude.
And for everyone watching,
Thanks for having me.
yeah, it's been a pleasure. So we'll see you at the next one.